Good evening and welcome to this evening's Cabinet meeting on the 26th of November. My name is Councillor David Thomas. I'm leader of the Council and will be hosting this evening's meeting. Start off with a little bit of housekeeping for those people in the physical room. We are not expecting a fire alarm, so should the alarm sound, please exit via the nearest exit and gather in the car park next to the library. Can I ask that you please ensure that all mobile phones and electronic devices are on silent. Please note that we are using hybrid meeting arrangements this evening, with officers and councillors who are not members of the Cabinet having the option to join the meeting via Zoom, and we will also be live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. Can I please remind you to speak closely into your microphone when speaking, and then ensure that you turn that microphone off when finished. Finally, anyone attending the meeting remotely, you must use your raise your hand function when you wish to speak and declare any interest at the appropriate time. If anyone's attending the meeting remotely loses connection, the meeting will continue and they will have the option to follow the meeting via the YouTube live stream. Okay, so let's start this evening's meeting with apologies.
Chairman, we've received an apology from Councillor Tranter, and Councillor Chris Lewis is in our virtual room as he's unable to be with us today. He will be able to take part in debates, but as a decision maker not being in the physical room, he will not be able to propose or vote on any items tonight.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on as we move through the meeting. Councillor Billings.
Chair, I will also have to step out part way. I have a presentation to give to the Business Forum in Brixham later on this evening.
Thank you very much indeed. Move on to item 2, which are minutes. To confirm as a correct record the minutes of the Cabinet meeting on the 15th of October. Happy to propose those from the Chair. Councillor Billings, I understand you wish to second.
Yes, Chair, that's correct.
All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Urgent items. Oh, my apologies. Disclosure of interests. Does any member have a pecuniary or a non-pecuniary interest? Please raise your hand. None declared at this point. Delighted to say that we have no urgent items this evening, so we will move straight into the budget, starting with the Revenue and Capital Budget 2025-2026. This is the launch for consultation. Councillor Tyerman.
Thank you. Yes, I'm pleased to propose that the budget be launched for consultation following this meeting and following the council meeting of next week. The budget this year, as last year very much, is looking at no significant or no cuts in services. We're very fortunate in Torbay to be able to put together a budget of that nature, I think due to good management of our finances and operations across the council that I would say stretch back over a number of years, not only during the current administration but during the previous administration, and I think that is serving us well. In particular, we are seeing very much less pressure in temporary accommodation costs and in children's services costs and in adult services costs to a degree, a lot of which has hinged on the decisions that were taken in previous years. I think our slight area of, I won't say concern, of difficulty perhaps in putting together this budget is that whereas there are always at this stage a lot of unknowns in terms of the financing, I think this year, with the change of government and particularly with the impact of changes in things like national insurance and not yet having details of how we as an authority are going to be compensated for, it's actually been difficult to put together the budget in regards of what our resources will be, our income particularly from government, with as much confidence as we would normally be able to do so. In that regard, we will get a much clearer idea in December through the financial settlement, and we will be bringing back to members any update on significant changes that would make as early as possible and not wait until our final budget proposals to do that. I think that looking forward to the priority and resources meetings in looking at our proposals, as I say, that without any cuts there, I think the main area of concern will be to look at some of the areas in which we're increasing our spend and increasing what we're able to provide, both to provide services through to our residents in extensions of work within Brighter Bay and within the work within the town centres, and at the same time giving more resilience into some areas of children's services, temporary accommodation and elsewhere in order to support the provision of services to our residents over the coming year. Members will have had briefings or be about to have briefings to cover aspects of the budget. I think there is no real value in me going through tonight a lot more detail about the content. Cabinet members will know what's there. Members will have the papers to thoroughly go through what's there before it's considered next week. So I propose that we take this forward to recommend to Council and to launch it for consultation.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. I'm happy to second this from the Chair. I think it is important for everyone to understand, particularly anybody at home, that this is the start of the revenue and capital budget consultation. First day being today, so the papers have been published. This will be coming to Council on the 5th of December for the start of those conversations, onto overview and scrutiny on the 10th and 11th, and we'll have a whole series of dates from early January, which takes us through to early February when the final decision is made. So that's probably all I'm going to say to second. Just for confirmation, I will read the recommendation out on this particular item, which is 1, that the budget proposals for 2025-26 are launched for consultation running until midnight on the 12th of January 2025, and that the Overview and Scrutiny Board be asked to provide feedback as part of that consultation. 2, that the Chief Finance Officer be given authority to amend these budget proposals for any technical adjustments necessary between services and within the overall envelope of funding in agreement with the Leader of the Council. 3, should the local government finance settlement due to be announced in December 2024 materially affect the proposed budget proposals, the Director of Finance be requested to present an update report to the ONS Board and Cabinet in January 2025. And finally, item 4, that the Chief Finance Officer report to the meeting of the Cabinet on the 18th of February 2025 on the implications for 25-26 as a result of these proposals currently being considered and the consultation results in light of the final settlement, which is expected by early February 2025. And at that point, I will open up for debate or comments around the Cabinet table to start with? And probably at this point, it's worthwhile saying that Councillor Lewis is joining us remotely this evening. He is able to engage in the debate. He can vote, but he cannot, my apologies, he cannot vote, he cannot propose, and he cannot second any item this evening. So open up to any comments at this stage. And the wider room, any comments in the wider room? In which case we'll move straight to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. We move on to item 7, which is a review of the Council Tax Support Scheme 25-26. Councillor Tyman.
Thank you. The Council Tax Support Scheme comes up for consideration by Council every year at this time and will be considered next week at Council meeting. The purpose of bringing it to Cabinet today is for Cabinet to make recommendations through to Council for them to consider next week. The proposal is that the Council be recommended to amend the Council Tax Support Scheme for 2025-26 as follows. 1. That the self-employed minimum income floor calculation for households that are not receiving universal credit and have a disability or caring responsibility is removed, and it is then based on the actual income received. 2. Discounting any compensation payments made by the Post Office in connection with the failings of the Horizon system. 3. Discounting any additional settlement payments resulting from the ongoing Grenfell Tower related civil litigation. 4. Discounting any payments for the Vaccine Damage Payment Scheme. 5. Discounting payments for victims of terrorist attacks abroad. And then the last item is that the income bands with the highest level of discount is increased by the September 2024 Consumer Price Index at 1.7%. In addition to that, Cabinet will note the amendments in 3.1 above will affect all working age households in Torbay that will receive a council tax reduction from 1st of April 2025. For the sake of clarity, pension households will not be affected as they are part of the national scheme set by the government. Cabinet also notes that the Exceptional Hardship Fund will continue at £100,000. Cabinet also wishes to give delegated authority to the Director of Finance in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Housing and Finance to make any further adjustments required to the Exceptional Household Policy and Fund and the Vulnerable Policy. Point 3.5, the Cabinet notes that when deciding claims for council tax support and housing benefit, the Social Security Administration Act 1992, Section 1348B and 1396B provides local authorities with the discretion to increase the amount of war pension it disregards. Local authorities can introduce a local scheme to fully disregard war widows, widowers' pension or war disablement pension remaining after the mandatory disregards have been applied. Torbay has fully disregarded this type of income and military compensation payments for many years, and for that reason would like to remind members of this arrangement when considering the renewal of the 2025-26 Council Tax Support Scheme. It also provides clarity that members will continue to support this arrangement should it be required for the annual housing benefit audit certification process. Basically, the changes to the scheme being proposed this year and that have been through consultation, all, if any, make any changes are to the benefit of the recipients of the council tax support. In other words, these changes may mean that some people will get support who wouldn't have otherwise have got support, or will get higher support than they would otherwise have done. There are no changes in here that will disadvantage anyone from receiving support or the amount of support that is there. Most of these changes have come through and been picked up from national changes that have been made. Only the first one and the second and the last one mentioned here, in items 1 and 6 within 3.1, are changes that are being introduced specifically to the Torbay scheme. I think that unless there are any questions going forward, I will leave it at that.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. I'm also happy to second this one from the Chair. I think that 3.11 regarding the self-employed minimum income floor calculation, that is something that is absolutely needed for individuals who may be self-employed, may have a disability or a caring responsibility and maybe not able to work 40 hours a week. And it was certainly, I've had a number of cases this year where that has been the case. So I'm delighted to see that that has been rectified and those individuals will benefit from this potential change if Council agree it on the 5th of December. So at that point, open up to the Cabinet members. Any comments, any questions? Or is everybody going to hold their fire till the 5th of December? Councillor Long.
Thank you very much. And whilst these recommendations are fine in as far as they go, it's just disappointing that there isn't a recommendation included to increase the discount from 75% to 80% of council tax. The previous administration did the necessary groundwork to allow the increase from 70 to 75%. So it's a pity that that hasn't, that step change hasn't continued, but we just note that. Thank you.
I don't think there are any further questions. I'll leave you to answer that one, Councillor Timon. I have the answer, I think, but I'll leave it to you.
Yes, I would just say that the council tax support maximum level applied at 70% had been in place for a number of years. It was in the last year of the last administration that they started consulting on moving it to 75. We were very happy to follow that through and make sure that it had happened in our first year of administration, despite the fact that the previous administration had left it unchanged for 3 years. I do not think that it was a sensible time to move it further. We increased last year and are maintaining this year the higher level of hardship fund, which will be able to deal with cases where we think people are being unfairly treated or by the standard scheme. We will be robust in considering any cases that are put before us where we think it's needed. I do think it's right that the bulk of people make some contribution to council tax, and whilst I'd like to be able to increase this figure if possible, and if funds were available, we would need to go out to consultation, and we haven't yet done that, so this would have to be something now that could only be considered for the following year.
Thank you very much indeed. So we shall move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Sorry, my apologies. Just before I move to the vote, my apologies. Councillor Foster. I didn't see your hand.
Behind the post. It's just really a comment, really. Page 12 on 3.5, you've already mentioned that those in the military who have received compensation or their pensions are disregarded when looking at what their benefits might be or what they might be eligible on the council tax support. It's just I've had an email this morning from the Royal British Legion in their London office asking me to get in touch with my council and ask them to put this in place. But as has already been said, it's been there for a number of years. So I didn't know if whether a letter could be written from Torbay Council to the Royal British Legion in London just to let them know that this is in place and has been in place for a number of years. I don't know if other councillors have received it or whether I was the only one, but that was all just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Timon.
I would just to follow up on that, saying the addition of this clause in here has been triggered by the fact that we received in response to our consultation just that information, and it's probably just not been stated in previous years that this is in place, even though it's been in place. So it's the very the very fact that it's here is in response, but certainly we can go back to say to them thank you for their letter of consultation, and we have made sure that the situation has been clarified in our updated statement and proposal. I guess we should probably do that after the council meeting when it's been agreed in there. Oh no, we can do it not right away, thinking about it, because this is only a noting. So we can get that done.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foster, if you care to email me, forward it on to me, we will ensure that the response goes out. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciated. Okay, let's move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. We move on to item number 8, which is budget monitoring 24-25. This is the April to September 24, and this is the revenue and capital outturn forecast. Councillor Tyerman.
Thank you. I sometimes wish all mine didn't come one after the other and I had time to think between them. The monitoring report seems to have taken quite a long time to come through to Cabinet. It was reviewed at Scrutiny quite a few weeks ago, and therefore was actually completed as a document. It seems an awful long time ago. In probably reality, time just flies by. It's a top-level statement of where we are, and I'm pleased to say on the revenue side, I think the situation is for this year is looking healthy. At the moment, the outturn variance is showing an overspend of just under £300,000. For this time of the year, that is unusually low. For authorities around the country at the moment, it's probably extraordinarily low as an overspend, as many are struggling to get their budgets back on course. However, I think that it would be wrong for us ever to be complacent, and we are continuing to work with departments across the council that are still showing an overspend to see how they can get that back into control. And I am confident, although they will not all be brought back to balance individually, that overall we will manage to achieve that aim before the end of the financial year. So that the council, the cabinet, notes this financial revenue outturn position and the amendments made to the published 2024 capital investment plan, and the council approves the revisions to the capital investment plan as per Appendix 1. or the council, sorry, the Cabinet recommends to Council that they will approve the revisions to the Capital Investment Plan as per the Appendix 1. Cabinet also recommends that Council delegate authority to approve capital budget increases which are in respect of the drawdown of specific grant to the Director of Finance in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Housing and Finance. This delegation will only apply to grant funding where there is no direct financial impact or future liability to the Council. And 2.6, Cabinet recommends to Council that the monitoring officer be requested to update the officer's scheme of delegation to reflect the delegation in 2.5 above. The last bits that are going to Council responding all to changes in the capital budget. There have been a significant number of additions to the capital budget, and I'm pleased to say they are mirroring many of the schemes that are in place, primarily using grant funding and bringing about many changes to Torbay. They include Union Square, they include Harbour Public Realm. Am I getting too muddled? Reading the wrong bit.
That's right.
Hmm?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
They include Debenhams redevelopment, and most of them at this stage are just preliminary expenditures. They're not expenditures for the total scheme. They are taking us forward to a position where we complete business cases which will hopefully come to the Council over the next few years, or months or years. In particular, I would like to mention there that we have made a significant increase to the budget to do with Oldway Mansion. That is to take money that has come from the levelling up to start the process of making Oldway secure, watertight, and it's the first stage of what I'm sure will be a succession of budget additions to bring Oldway back into the state we need it. I think it's important here that we do recognise that this is going to be a long haul with Oldway Mansion to get it to where we want it to be, but this is a very valuable first step. As usual, this monitoring report also includes the addition of schemes to do with the schools, and the key ones in here, the key one in here is the capital improvements to YMCA building in Paignton, because they are a key delivery partner in providing a wide range of specialist services for the local community. There is a lot to look at here in terms of these budget changes. We can talk about them a lot more, and I hope I present them in a lot more smoother manner when it comes to Council next week.
Thank you indeed, Councillor Tyerman. This one will be seconded by Councillor Bye.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm absolutely delighted to second this report. I know when I meet with my lead members for Children's Services colleagues from other councils, they would be hugely envious of an outturn that looks as healthy as ours does. I appreciate there is a small projected deficit, but within the Children's Services area, we're confident of making further changes. We're hard at work trying to reduce the overspend on home school transport. For example, you and I keep an eagle eye on expensive placements and thinking about how we might manage that in the future, and absolutely with regard to agency staff, there may be changes that will have an impact, an advantageous impact on our budget situation going forward. I'm very, very pleased indeed to see the YMCA financed at Goodrington from a capital stream. So it's from higher needs capital money. It's not having an impact on our higher needs revenue, which is challenged as it is in pretty much all local authorities. This is money that, were it not spent now, could not be spent. So it's a stream of money, as I understand it, that is coming to an end, that helps the YMCA at Goodrington build up a business case, presumably to secure further external funding to make improvements to their premises. I remember being around when the Queen Mother came to open it back in the 1960s, and I don't think it's had very much money spent on it since, and it is a home for many services for children and young people in the Bay, very valuable services which we commission and which we very much appreciate. So I'm really pleased to see that there. I want to say thank you to professional colleagues for all that you do in managing the council's finances in such a sound fashion, and to Councillor Tymon, who we are very fortunate brings his particular skills to the financial portfolio. So I'm delighted to support this recommendation, this proposal, as it goes through with additions to the capital projects which need to go to the full council. We appreciate that all councillors need to sign up for the revisions to the capital programme, but I very much hope that they will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. And at this point, we open up for debate, either within the Cabinet or wider than the Cabinet. Any comments on screen? In the virtual room? No. Okay, so in which case we will move straight to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Move on to item 9, which is the Paignton Picture House. And there is a to follow report, which hopefully you should have a copy of by now. This sits under Councillor Lewis's portfolio, and in a moment he will provide all of the detail. However, at this stage, and certainly for any decision that's taken within the Cabinet, I will be formally proposing, this is a good news story, in fact it's a great news story, I'm simply going to be proposing the recommendations, and again this is a recommendation that 3.1, those items will be a decision for Council, 3.2 will be a decision for the Cabinet taken this evening. They appear on page 4 and page 5 of the to follow report, and I don't wish to steal Councillor Lewis's thunder at all, so I will hold it there. I understand that Councillor Jackie Thomas will be seconding.
Thank you, Chairman. I second this report and fully... What a bossy bee. Doesn't make any difference.
Try the different microphone.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you, Chair. I second this report and fully support the action and partnership between Torbay Council, the Arts Council England and Paignton Picture House to restore it to its former glory. This report sets out the 2015 Paignton Town Centre Master Plan and is part of the redevelopment and regeneration of Paignton Town Centre. This is expected to be completed by March of next year, which will enable our residents and visitors to enjoy this important part of our heritage. So happy to second, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move across for Councillor Lewis to provide all of the detail.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and always a great pleasure to follow my good friend, Councillor Alan Tymon, who has been superb over the last few minutes. This report sets out the required action by Cabinet and Council to form a tripartite partnership between Torbay Council, the Arts Council, and of course Paignton Picture House Trust. And at this stage, I would like to thank Paul Hawthorne and the Trust for all their work over the last few years in bringing this to the table, the Paignton Picture House. And of course, thanks to Josephine Brown for all her hard work as the project manager going forward for the project. A bit of background, Councillor Thomas and I, when we were first became the administration about 18 months ago, we were contacted by Paul Hawthorne and the Trust to see if we could help because they were struggling at that time. We were clearly very supportive and came forward and managed to find some more money from the High Street Fund. When the tenders came in earlier this year, they were clearly higher than the expectation of the trustees. And they came to Councillor Thomas and I again for help. At that stage, we thought we should open it up and see how we could help on a long-term basis. And obviously, one of the main items that they wanted and what the Arts Council wanted was the underwriting of the project going forward. The Arts Council made it very clear to us that before any funding would be forthcoming, that they needed to know that the project could be delivered. So we stepped in and we said we will negotiate and see how we can help. Again, Councillor Thomas and I had a number of conversations, but clearly this was an operational level. And I would like to thank, again, the trustees for their understanding and for their openness in coming forward. And of course, our officers under David Carter, Chris Bartlett, who negotiated going forward in creating the tripartite partnership. So it really is a partnership between us, the Arts Council and the Trust. As Councillor Jackie Thomas said, the Picture House is important to us. And the alternative to actually supporting the Trust in this way would have been that the money may have had to be returned to the Arts Council and others, and we may have been left with a derelict building in the centre of Paignton. We were determined that this would not happen, but we wanted to do it with the full support of others going forward. So it was seen very much as a partnership, and that's what it is, us bringing our expertise to the party, the different skills that we all have, the trustees, the Arts Council and Torbay Council. And with that, I think there's one priority, and that is to bring the Picture House back to life and be what it used to be when it was opened all those years ago. So the recommendation, as outlined, Mr. Chairman, by you, which covers the council supporting the 900,000 from the future High Street funds, and of course the council to underwrite the project up to 1.6 million. We hope that that full 1.6 million will not be needed because we hope that the trustees and others will bring in more voluntary donations into the picture. And of course, with our expertise, we're hoping that we may be able to cut some costs, but not too much so that we spoil the project. So it is a good news story, as you said, Mr. Chairman. And I ask for your support. It will be then going on to full council where we can have a fuller debate, but I hope we will get cross-party support on this because it's so important that we get these deals where we have outside funding, that we show to them, the Arts Council, that we are supportive of them and we want to deliver for the Bay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. So the item 9 has been properly proposed and seconded. The detail has been provided, and so we'll open up for any comments or debate within the Cabinet or around the room. Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just think this is a great project for Paignton, and it's ticks so many boxes in terms of heritage and culture, and tourism. You know, it is something that I'm sure visitors will want to come and see. I'd like to add my thanks to all those who've been involved with the project so far. If I may, can I indulge you with a little story? I mean, it is quite famous that this cinema was the favourite of Agatha Christie with her own particular seats. It was also a favourite with our family, and it was our sort of family cinema of choice when I was a child, and was taken to this cinema quite regularly, but invariably late. And so saw sort of 3/4 of a film, and then saw the quarter of the next showing of the same film, and then walked out. Of course, we had to leave because we didn't want to sit through the whole thing twice. So I'm so looking forward. This is the best news for Paignton, the best news absolutely for Paignton, and I'm looking forward to this coming to fruition so that I can go and see it as an adult and arrive on time. So I hope members will support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. Councillor Tyerman?
Thank you. I think it won't surprise colleagues round the cabinet table here that this is a proposal that has given me some concern and led to quite a deep look at what's going on here. I think I always from the beginning feel that this is something that we should be doing, want to be doing, and it's absolutely right to do. But it is creating a situation where the council, if it agrees this next week, is committing itself to the possibility, only possibility, that we will have to fund it from unsupported borrowing, which will be a charge on the council's budget for many years ahead. As I say, I think this is the right thing to do. It has my full support. I just want to make sure that councillors across the council, when they consider this next week at council, do it with their eyes open as to the fact that they are effectively making a decision that will commit the council, or could commit the council, to a budget charge going forward. So absolutely the right thing to do, absolutely got my support, but it's one in which I think everyone needs to understand the decision they're taking and the position that the council is in.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And of course, the Paignton Picture House has been a project that's been supported for quite some time, including by the previous administration as well. So there can be no doubt about the value that that project has. However, I think there may be a number of councillors who share Councillor Tyman's concern in the run-up to this meeting and the next council meeting. I have two concerns really. One is about the partnership, proposed tripartite partnership. This report doesn't scream partnership to me, I'm afraid. For example, 3.3 of the report talks about the Picture House having oversight of decisions that the council makes and there being a legal dispute process if they don't agree with them. That doesn't suggest to me that the Paignton Picture House will be involved in the decision-making process as part of a project board going forward, which one would expect from a tripartite partnership. And one question I do have is how much does the Paignton Picture House project team, how much will they be involved in the project going forward? The other major concern is almost a kind of very undetailed, if that's a word, undetailed kind of line in the report about 900,000 being transferred from the future High Streets funding. It does beg the question about where that money is coming from in terms of other projects that money might have been earmarked for. I believe it might be the Victoria Centre, or it might be Torbay Road that money might be coming from, and what effect that might have on those projects going forward. And of course I understand that the ward councillors have not been involved particularly in that discussion, nor have the community been involved in that discussion about the varying of that money, which you know, if we're coming up to a meeting at full council very shortly, you'd have thought there'd have been that wider involvement and discussion about such a major varying of money. So there do remain those two concerns. And for such a great, good news story, in the discussions I've had in the run-up to this meeting, I've not picked up any great over-enthusiasm for this tri-partnership. So those are just the concerns I have, but of course we do support the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or debate around the table? We'll be going back, I'll be going across to Councillor Lewis in just a moment. Mine went blank. However, Councillor Cowell.
I would suggest he's out of sight, out of mind. But sorry, Chris. Just a point of clarification. What is the total project cost for the picture house? Because as has been pointed out, like many of the capital projects that the council are pushing forward, there has been a huge increase in the cost from the original concept. And Councillor Law and I were just trying to remember what the original cost was, because they've had various grants as well as the support from Torbay Council. So if we could clarify what the total project cost is now, that would be helpful. But again, like other colleagues, it's a project that I fully support, and when we had to choose a project to submit for grant funding, it stood out head and shoulders as the obvious choice, which helped kickstart the project in the first place. And like everybody else, I wasn't around when Agatha Christie was sat in there, but I certainly remember Saturday morning picture shows as a youngster. I do have a good memory.
Thank you very much. Move across back to Councillor Lewis in the virtual room.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Everyone very positive going forward, and they think it's a great project, and then say for every reason that they have major concerns about it, which does worry me a bit. I mean, we took it over from the previous administration, and we had no option. The option to do nothing would have meant that we would have had a derelict building, and we would never have got the picture house across the line. We have been working with the trust. The reason why we haven't involved the community at this stage is very clearly, as you can see, the late report coming out is to get feedback from the Arts Council, from the trust and from others. It hasn't been easy to get it across the line, but we have got it across the line. The one major item that needed to be done was to show that we had the finance going forward. Otherwise, the Arts Council weren't going to release the money. And that's why Torbay Council, with the support of Councillor Thomas and myself, was that if we are going to be, and we've heard from Councillor Timon that it is 1.6 million, that we had to have greater involvement than we have had before. And clearly, that was negotiating with the trust. And as you can see from the letter they've written, they asked us to provide that backing. And that backing we have provided, but it'd be quite wrong, Councillor Long, Councillor Cowell, if we pass this at Cabinet and at Council and we didn't have the involvement that we should have for taxpayers' money. And that's why we've done it. And hopefully the tripartite will go forward as of that. The Arts Council providing the bulk of the money, the Picture House Trust being the backbone of it going forward, because they're going to run it once it's done, and us providing the funds, but making sure those funds, and don't forget, we in Torbay, Torbay Council, we do have the skills, we have done projects before. It is unfortunate, as Councillor Cowell said, that the budget has gone up, but it's gone up for everything. You know, I'm not blaming anyone, but when we took over Crossways, we couldn't get that across the line. The Premier Inn, difficult to get across the line. the Paignton Picture House is no different. The difference is, did we step in to help them, or did we walk away? And I thought we had a responsibility to step in and help them, and that's what we've done. As far as Councillor Cowell wanted to know what the total budget was, it is in the paperwork. We believe it to be between 8 and 9 million. We think there are costs that we can cut down on, and hopefully on the revenue coming in, hopefully we'll get more support coming in to reduce that. But at the moment, I think we will have done the right thing if Cabinet passing it goes to Council. And I think we need to be positive about it, because if we give negative messages, it tends to spread. Let's be positive in the Bay. We promised we would deliver. The Picture House was struggling. We are delivering. And I think it's a good news story, as you said, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Before I go to the vote, a couple of questions that came up about environment, the questions about Torbay Road. You members will be aware that Torbay Road was not included in the Levelling Up Partnership, so there is no money to via from Torbay Road. It wasn't even there. The money that we're viring across is because of the good deals that we've been able to do with some of the other money that has released other monies to enable us to do this in Paignton, in this particular project. And I think there's a clear dividing line here. You can either say, actually, throw our hands up in the air, we don't want to do anything about this, and we'll vote it down in council next week, or actually embrace the tripartite opportunity that exists here, say that we're going to be part of it, and actually we're going to make a difference for Paignton. I will go to the vote amongst the Cabinet. I think we'll get a very strong approval from the Cabinet. The question, I guess, for the 5th of December is, will the rest of the Council be supportive of Paignton, or would they rather just let us see the Paignton Picture House wither and die? We'll need to wait and see what comes out on the 5th of December. So we'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Move on to the next item, which is item number 10. And this is the Strand Redevelopment Land Assembly. A similar situation here, in as much as Councillor Lewis will provide the detail in just a few moments. But in order to officially propose and second that, we'll do that in the room. I'm happy to propose. The Strand, like all developments, major developments, if you want to bring forward, and we saw it happen in Crossways, took a long time to get there before that decision was actually taken, and compulsory purchase powers became an option, and effectively that's what we are looking to do with the Strand redevelopment. It'd be fantastic that we have the public realm there complete on Friday of this week, and it is about actually continuing that regeneration along the Strand, the terrace area in Torquay. The recommendations that we're going to be talking about appear on page 67 and 68 of the papers. They are recommendations that again go to the council meeting on the 5th of October, and at that point I am happy to propose. Councillor Bye, I understand that you wish to second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I'm absolutely delighted to support and to second this regeneration project. I think the partnership now with Wilmot, Dixon and Milligans is bearing fruit. Well done to the previous administration for acquiring the Debenham site, but this is all about acquiring additional units in the immediate vicinity so that we can have a more ambitious and viable project going forward. So I'm hugely excited to be looking forward to Friday night. I think that's going to be a great night for Torquay, to be down there to see the Strand public realm regeneration come to fruition, and then let's hope that we can follow on pretty swiftly with the Debenhams and associated premises regeneration. You know, the particular excitement, last night I dusted off this marvellous copy of the new English Riviera, the Mayor's Vision, if people remember it, drawn up by LDA Design, the new English Riviera, the Mayor's Vision for a future Torbay. And there it is on page 57, Mr. Chairman. Here we go. The Strand public realm mentioned there as project number 9. The public realm improvements to reduce the impact of traffic, remove clutter. Number 10, a new, well, this is saying what we thought then might go there, a new 3 to 4 story high quality development with ground floor retail and potential residential. Wonderful pedestrian links is all there. Isn't that exciting? All those years ago, it was in the mayoral vision, and then this administration, working on what the previous administration brought forward and the purchase of Debenhams, we're delivering a new English Riviera regeneration of the bay. So marvellous. Very, very pleased to support this recommendation, and very much hope that councillors will support it when it goes to the council meeting next week.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. And like the previous item, we will now move across to Councillor Lewis to provide further detail. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you've probably covered much of it. I'm glad that the former Mayor, Councillor Nick Bye, is the mayoral vision when I was the Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration at that time. And deja vu, here we are again. But instead of that, we are delivering, and we are going to deliver on this scheme. It is very similar to the Crossways and to Union Square, where we put it through Cabinet and Council. It allows the Council to proceed with the compulsory purchase. And of course, we hope that we will never have to use it. We hope that we will get establishments to sign up and we never have to compulsory purchase. That is the last resort. But we need that last resort because we cannot delay and dither. We need to get on with it. And we've already acquired some of the properties there. And as you said, the previous administration purchased Debenhams. The scheme that was left with us with 14 apartments didn't stack up. When we got our partners on board, Wilmot Dixon and Milligan's, they made it very clear that if we could do the whole of the Strand, or virtually the whole of the Strand, we had a scheme that would probably work and would be exciting. And I think it will be exciting times for Torquay, and it will change that. It'll be on the back of what we've done on the Strand, and it will transform that part of Torquay. And we, as I say, we promised to deliver, and we are going to deliver. This is just a small cog in the wheel of that delivery. So I hope that the Cabinet will give the full support. And when we go to Council on the 5th of December, I hope again, like the last one, it will be cross-party and we have the full support. We don't want any negative thoughts on this. We want positive thoughts going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you indeed, Councillor. And we'll open up for any comments or debate or questions around the room, either in the virtual room or in the physical room. Not seeing any hands on this one. We'll move straight to the vote. Unless you want to sum up, Councillor Lewis. Sorry,
I think I've delivered enough for tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We agree on something. Okay, move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Move on to item number 11, which is the homelessness and the rough sleeper strategy. In the absence of Councillor Tranter this evening, I will be proposing this particular item. I think, first of all, it's a really important issue. Homelessness, rough sleeping, it's a big issue for Torbay, and it's got a massive impact on families and individuals. But homelessness is not just about rough sleeping. It's everyone without their own home. And at the moment, with the way cost of living crisis is, with the regulation changes that is making it a little more unpopular for landlords to stay in that profession, we are seeing much more pressure. So there is a legal requirement for us to publish a strategy informed by a homeless review of its area, and that's every 5 years. And therefore, this strategy replaces our old one. We have undertaken an evidence review. We have consulted on this strategy. On average, we have about 140 households in temporary accommodation at any one time. And that's made up of a mixture of single people and families, slightly more singles than families. And on average, 19% of households needing homeless assistance required temporary accommodation. So the strategy talks about 3 priorities, and they revolve around increasing early help and prevention, intervening when people fall into crisis, and support people to live independently and lead meaningful quality lives when they get their home. We are also developing a new action plan collaboratively with the Torbay Homelessness Partnership, and it is worth mentioning that this is a new partnership. I think for me, page 95 sums it up really quite nicely on those 3 aims about making homelessness a rare occurrence, i.e., increasing that prevention and that earlier intervention at a community level. Some of that work that we've already been doing through trying to keep people within their own homes. Secondly, keep homelessness as brief as possible. So for those who do find themselves homeless, we're improving temporary and supported accommodation, and we want it to become a much more positive experience. And third and finally, that third vision is to try to ensure that the experience of homelessness is unrepeated. So effectively, if you have been homeless, how can we ensure that you get into a settled home and the right support at the right time for the longer term? So this is another item that the Cabinet will be recommending to Council. Clearly going to be a busy evening on the 5th of December. The recommendation is that following the results of the consultation, the Torbay Homelessness and Rough Sleeper Strategy 24 to 30, as set out in Appendix 1, be approved. So move that. And I understand that Councillor Tyerman is happy to second that one.
Yes, I'm happy to second that. I think this is excellent as a strategy, partly, and only partly, because it actually is relatively short, easy to read, covers all the circumstances, and brings together all the factors in a way that I think is easy to comprehend and easy to remember. I think there is an element of which quite a lot of work needs to go on to turn a lot of the ambitions of this strategy into results. That is something that will continue and something I look forward to playing my part in as a Cabinet Member for Housing. Clearly, the housing portfolio and providing the right housing is an important part of what we need to do to action this strategy. So I'm happy to second this and thank very much the work that's gone into it to bring it to this stage.
Thank you, Councillor, and we'll open up for any comments, any debate, any questions. Thank you, Councillor Long.
Thank you very much. And like Councillor Tymon, I didn't find this report difficult to read, so that's always a good starting point. I think the one elephant in the room for this report is the lack of any kind of action over building affordable homes in this report, and that's a theme that seems to run through the feedback that's reported in this report, is the need from residents for the need for more affordable homes. And I know that, and that's actually a theme that runs through many of the reports that comes to either ONS or Cabinet or councils, the need for more homes. For example, at over in Scrutiny recently that we were discussing mental health services and also domestic violence services, etc. And there was items in there about the need for more move-on accommodation for people. And that's what's kind of lacking in this report, is how we're going to get more affordable homes. And so I would have liked a bit more detail about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? To answer your question directly regarding affordable homes, we are working working some sites up, particularly some brownfield sites up significantly. I believe that within this administration, we will deliver significantly more affordable homes than were delivered in the previous administration. And we'll be able to talk more about that once the final figures are allocated. But I mean, also, if you look at the work that we're already doing with our hotels to homes scheme, there's a £3 million investment. In fact, my apologies, Councillor Time, I think it's 5 million, isn't it? 3 plus 2? 2 million from the combined county authority and 3 million. Am I right? Yeah. So my apologies. £5 million investment on affordable homes. That's just across 2 sites, you know. So I think those 2 alone will surpass what was provided by the previous administration. So move to the vote then.
Councillor Cowell.
Sorry, my apologies. Councillor Cowell.
Thank you. I know I'm slightly obscured by the pillar. Of course, whilst we're absolutely welcome the hotels to homes scheme, we had the project that we brought forward, which was for £10 million in terms of securing temporary accommodation. And as Councillor Long has alluded to, we have that significant problem of 27% of our rented accommodation is in the private sector. Of our housing stock is a total of 27%. And it's that figure that we have to drive forward. And of course, whilst we had significant projects coming forward, and we did deliver Tween Away, we started the scheme in Brixham, St Kilda's. Like so many others, we really suffered with the consequences of the COVID pandemic in terms of being able to carry things forward and the escalation in costs for delivery. So I think it's a bit disingenuous to start trying to play this administration against that administration game, because 2 can play at it.
You mentioned St Kilda's. Delighted that we've also brought forward St Kilda's to talk about the additional costs that have been incurred. Well, of course, they didn't disappear when we tried to get the St Kilda's scheme across the line. So it's a fantastic outcome for those residents in Brixham, for certain. And I do thank you for raising that one, as it wasn't in the hotels to home scheme. So that is much appreciated. Okay, this'll be another one that goes to, as I say, goes to council on the 5th of December. So all those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. We move on to item 12. And this one, to be honest, was to be presented by Councillor Billings. Unfortunately, he's had to go to a meeting in Brixham this evening. We hoped we may get to this point in advance of him leaving, but that is not the case. So I will move the Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles from the Chair. So for me, the Gambling Act 2005 requires Torbay Council, under its role as the licensing authority. So don't forget that, you know, we sit as a council, we also sit as a licensing authority, and we sit as a planning authority. So we have 3 different hats to wear. So this time we're wearing the licensing authority hat. Under its role as licensing authority, we have a need to review and publish the Statement of Principles, which is effectively, you and I know that as the gambling policy, and that needs to be done every 3 years. And where we are within that process, it must be completed before the 30th of January of next year. So the statement ensures we provide clarity as to how the council will fulfil its role as the licensing authority and provides guidance to business and the public. Gambling premises are part of the UK culture, particularly in seaside locations. However, it is important that the gambling activities are provided responsibly. So the statement is based on the previous version. There are some minor updates and some extra detail provided in some parts. You will see that there are 4 responses to the consultation in the document, and it is my understanding that this went through overview and scrutiny last time out, or was it? I think I'm right. I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. It was either ONS or the licensing committee where it was supported. So my apologies if I've got one of those wrong, but I'm sure somebody in the room will confirm exactly where it's been to, but I know it was supported. So happy to propose from the chair, and sorry that there's probably not as much detail in that as you would have had if maybe Adam had presented it. Move across to Councillor Jackie Thomas, who will second this one.
Buzz again. Yes. Thank you, Chair. I'll just make this very brief, and I am happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. At which point we can then now move up to members inside the Cabinet or outside. Councillor Bye.
I was just going to say 5.4, it says here, the Statutory Licensing Committee considered the Statement of Principles Gambling Policy at its meeting on the 24th of October this year and recommended to Cabinet and Council its adoption. So the Licensing Committee has already supported it and it goes on to the Council.
Thank you so much for that. I knew I'd read it somewhere, but I couldn't remember whether it was licensing or overview and scrutiny. We've got a hand. Councillor Lewis in the virtual room.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Nicholas Bye has actually answered the question. I sat on that licensing committee and it gave its full support and a recommendation to Cabinet.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm not seeing any more hands on this one, and therefore I will move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. We move on to item number 13, which is a review of parliamentary polling districts, polling places and polling stations 2024. Councillor Jackie Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose this report for the review of the parliamentary polling districts, polling places and polling stations 2024. Under the Representation of the People's Act 1983, Torbay Council has a duty to divide its area into polling districts and to designate a polling place for each district. The Electoral Administration Act 2006, as amended, introduced a duty on all authorities in Great Britain to review their polling districts and places at least once every 5 years. This compulsory review must be undertaken within a 16-month window between the 1st of October 23 and the 31st of October 25. The proposals in this report are very minor, with most polling stations unaffected and unchanged. These changes were made with consideration from feedback when it was consulted on with both members and residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Tyerman, I understand that you will second this item. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, happy to second this, and I don't think there's anything to add to what Councillor Thomas has said in her proposal.
Thank you very much indeed. I thought you were almost going to reserve your right at that point. Okay, let's open up then for comments, debate, questions. Councillor Bye.
Thank you very much to all those who've been involved in this work, and delighted to see that the polling district RD within the Wellswood ward, residents there or electors there will have the opportunity in the future to vote at the little theatre at St Mark's Road rather than going to the museum, which is actually slightly outside the actual polling district. So that will be a much more convenient place for Meadford residents. So my Wellswood colleague and I were very, very pleased indeed to see that change. They can buy their tickets at the same time.
Thank you. Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chair. Just to welcome, at long last, the move from Sherwell Valley Primary School, which has always been difficult to access up a long drive. The school doesn't close. There was nowhere for people to park nearby. There's limited parking along Hawkins Avenue. So hopefully the move now to Torquay Boys / Girls Grammar School will actually make voting for me in Shippey much easier in 2027. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, and I'm tempted to say that if that Wellswood polling station had been more convenient in the by-election, then maybe there may have been, 10 votes the other way, but you never know. I was putting my hand up to speak just to say that I'm particularly pleased by the change in polling station in Tom Owen ward. I gave a lift to an elector on polling day in the general election who is complaining vociferously about not being able to walk to the marble units, business units, and how the Echo Centre will be much better. And so that elector has her wish. So I'm sure at least she will be very, very happy. And I won't have to give her a lift again. Thank you.
Cordelia is very, very pleased. Thank you very much indeed. It looks as though we have heated agreement on this one. So we'll go back to Councillor Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to let you know that I think they're going to go and look at the grammar school at Shippey this next week, but it definitely will be the girls or the boys side. So thank you. Happy to go to the vote.
Thank you. In which case we will move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 14. we've got the response to the notice of motion of Torbay Sensory Services. Slight pause. I'm not sure if it's Councillor Bai or myself. Are you proposing, sir?
I'm quite happy to. I think you're doing very well tonight. I think
I'm delighted to have a rest. Thank you.
You're covering an awful lot. And goodness me, an awful lot does go on. So here we go on page 242 of this evening's report, bundle of reports. The recommendation 3.1 that we're going to support, that hopefully colleagues will support, that Cabinet give thanks to the sensory team for their work in Torbay and note the submitted report. I have to say, I read through this and I was just really, really impressed and pleased to see all the work that is going on with our sensory team and partners based in Midvale Road. I think it's Jasmine House is the name of the property. The tremendous throughput of people with sensory needs and those with visual impairment, but also with hearing impairment. So you're looking at a throughput of hundreds of people in the course of a year and the support that they are getting. So this report was inspired by a question or a motion put by Councillor Mandy Darling. So I've gone at the end for our recommendation, but the purpose of the report is right at the beginning. There was a notice of a motion made to the Cabinet on the 13th of February 2024 by Councillor Mandy Darling regarding vision rehabilitation services. The report will outline, review and evidence the current service provided to individuals with a sensory impairment by a Torbay sensory team, including but not exclusively rehabilitation, provision of community equipment and minor adaptations. As the sensory team deliver an integrated service, the terms of the notice of motion were amended with permission from Councillor Darling to include hearing impairment and dual sensory loss as well as the vision rehabilitation services. So I'd like to say thank you very much to Councillor Mandy Darling for kind of inspiring this report. I've learnt quite a lot reading through. We seem to have more people in Torbay than you would expect with a visual impairment, perhaps a reflection of the age profile of the population, perhaps still a legacy for when we had the America House and Lincoln Manor facilities in the Lincolns within the Wellswood area as the training centres for the RNIB. I know a lot of people that came there and then stayed in the Torbay area. So really delighted to recommend this report. So thank you for all the people who are doing very good work, particularly those based in the sensory service at Midvale Road, and all those who work with them and all the partnership work that's going on. Look at all this brilliant, professional, wonderful, excellent personal care there at 1.8. So a fantastic endorsement of all the work that is underway, and thanking our Director of Adults and all her team as well for the support that they give for the work for people who appreciate these services. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bai. Delighted to second this. I was also really impressed when reading through the report. Sensory team, those numbers that the sensory team have actually engaged with over the past 12 months is really impressive. 373 people from our community, phone calls, drop-in sessions at Jasmine House. Really interesting. They have about 80 people attending group sessions on a weekly basis at Jasmine House, and I think it was last year as part of the Adult Social Care Week of Opportunities, I did go and spend a morning at Jasmine House, and the day I was there, they were effectively, I joined a lip reading class, which was incredibly difficult if you've, absolutely amazing skill set, but if you suddenly find yourself tomorrow, as there were in that room, individuals that have got later in life and are struggling to hear, what's going on in the room, myself included, it is very difficult. And if you're then relying on or trying to lip read, it really is like trying to learn a new language. But the tutor that they had there providing the structured lesson, it was very, very good. And I, absolutely endorse that opportunity of going back to the floor. So more than happy to support the response to the notice of motion that came forward from Councillor Mandy Darling. So open up to any further comments, any further debate from anybody in the room. Lots of nice smiles or laughter. Let's move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. We move on to item 15, which is the event strategy, and this is the report of the ONS board. Thank you, Councillor Jackie Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. There were two recommendations from the ONS board. So looking at the recommendations in the report to request the Director of Pride in Place to reference engaging sport Torbay to encourage more land and maritime based sporting events across Torbay in the event strategy. We responded with the recommendation aligned with the objectives and work programme of the Council's Culture, Events and Sports Department. The Sport and Physical Activity team are working with Sport Torbay, the Harbours team and Public Health to deliver a range of strategies including the Destination Management Plan to deliver ambitions for sporting events. The events team are working with the Sport and Physical Activity team and the Council's Economic Development team to support the opportunities as they arise. And recommendation 2 is to provide assurance that the events team has sufficient capacity to deliver the recommendations included in the report and what action they will take to ensure that the actions are delivered within the proposed timescale. Our response to this is the events team has a programmed approach to delivering the actions arising from the event strategy, and these are carried out on a priority basis to meet the objectives of the community and corporate plan. The staffing resource is sufficient for the current workload. However, if we were to expand the number of events that we deliver or any additional activities related to events, we would need to increase the number of staff within the service area. As a Cabinet member, this can be discussed with the Head of Culture and Events during the up-and-coming budget setting process. So I'm happy to move the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Councillor Thomas. This one's being seconded by Councillor Bye. Thank you indeed, Councillor. Don't forget your microphone.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to second this, thank you. And applaud the portfolio holder for all the work that she has done.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. Let's move on to questions, if there are any. Councillor Cowell, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether the recommendation and request from Overview and Scrutiny, which I put forward in terms of sport, has really been addressed. It seems to me it's a lot of words there to say no, because anybody who's been in Torbay for the length of time that some of us have will recall just how successful things like the hockey festival, there used to be a cricket festival, there used to be a rugby festival, that actually filled many, many bed nights when those tournaments were occurring. They've all but gone. The hockey festival is a shadow of what it used to be. There are so many teams participating in that. We had to use facilities across South Devon to meet the demand. Now it's pretty much held at one or two venues. So I think there's a missed opportunity by not focusing on the relationship and the opportunity with Sport Torbay. And secondly, I think there's many people in our community who would actually suggest that there isn't sufficient capacity to support events. We asked for £100,000 to be added into the budget to increase the events capacity, which was accepted but not fully delivered in terms of staff to deliver events, not because some of the funding was used for a senior officer. I get regular feedback from people who are wanting to put on events who actually don't bother anymore because of the hoops they have to jump through and the lack of capacity for the council to help support those smaller events. All very well putting all our eggs in the baskets of the Airshow and the wonderful Bay of Lights, etc. But that's those much smaller events that are falling by the wayside, which are so important to our community. And I just hope that as we've now launched the budget consultation, we actually have some serious reconsideration of the number of staff in that events team moving forward. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Okay. I'll pass across to Councillor Thomas first of all for any reflections on what Councillor Cowell said.
Yeah, thank you. I may bring Lisa in here to give me a hand on some of those responses. Oh my gosh, I think it's me. But I do know that we have changed some of the ways we work and the paperwork and the forms, etc., when it comes to the community events to help and encourage some of those communities to put on their events. But I'm going to hand over to Lisa to address anything else that perhaps I've missed.
Thank you. I'll come over to you in just a moment, Councillor Bye. I think it's also important to understand that from an operational point of view, you know, we're obviously through Councillor Thomas, we're having those conversations with officers to see if they have the capacity, and basically the reply that we're pulling together is effectively a team response. But we have Lisa with us this evening, who'll be able to hopefully elaborate a little bit more on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Thomas is absolutely right. We are doing, we are reassessing the application form process at the moment. We know that it is quite arduous. We also know that there are lots of really willing organisations and community groups out there who would love to put events on, but they have to follow set rules, they have to go through the health and safety, and that can be quite daunting. So we're looking at ways in which we can make the whole process easier. We're looking at ways that we can do training, but this all takes staff and time to do. I would absolutely welcome more staff on the events team. Of course, I would say that, because with more staff we can do more than we're currently doing. But with the staff we currently have, we are meeting the needs that come forward for that service at the moment at the basic level that we possibly can, with the wonderful Bay of Lights and Airshow as well on top of that. So we're working to make the process as good as we possibly can with the staffing levels that we currently have. But of course, I'm never going to say no to more staff on the events team.
Thank you. Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't say very much at the beginning because I wasn't expecting to speak, but I do just want to respond to Councillor Cowell, and I'm so pleased that we've had a response of sort of detail of how to support and make it a bit more user-friendly with small events. But in simple things, in simple terms, things change. And I remember with fondness when years ago the hockey festival was a big event, and my cousin used to come all the way from Bournemouth, and it was very exciting. But those sorts of team sports, the participation we know nationally, and particularly with hockey, has moved away. I just want to be a little bit more positive again and say I don't think that people recognise how much marine activity there is going on, sponsored by the Yacht Club, for example, with all the improvements over the recent years down at Beacon Quay. A huge amount of activity there, and then further along in the summer at Torbay. The new padel, is that the way you call it? The padel tennis? Paddle. I mean, that is fantastic, I have to say, in front of the conference centre. I walk down there quite a lot. And there's large numbers of people down there morning, noon and night with the floodlights. So things come along, and that seems to be a very popular new thing. And the Velo Park over at Goodrington, as I drive to work on the other side of the bay, on Saturdays and occasionally on other days. I mean, amazing activity at the Velo Park and great enthusiasm for cycling. So I think it's, some things change, and to look nostalgically at the team sports, which I have said I never enjoyed at school, but there we go. But the hockey is sort of all faded away, and far fewer people now play, as I understand it, play cricket and rugby. So celebrate the new. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We shall go back to Councillor Thomas.
Got a new fandangled microphone now. Got 3. One's got to work. Thank you. I mean, also, I just wanted to point out that we are now supporting the SUP paddleboarding championships, which were obviously had its initial outing this year. We are working towards getting them back for next year, and hopefully for the World Championships, maybe for the following year. So we are doing, quite a bit to try and encourage more on water sports as well as on land. So I think I'm happy to go to the vote if you are, Chair. Thank you.
What a great idea. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Move on to item 16, support for young people, report of the Children and Young People's Overview and Scrutiny Sub-Board. Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this follows on from a discussion at Overview and Scrutiny where a greater amount of youth activity was listed and discussed. And then there was a recommendation, so I'm going to read out the recommendation and then quickly the response. So at the Overview and Scrutiny Board, that the Cabinet be requested to continue to support young people, ensuring young people have a voice and access to support in Torbay, and to ensure that the welfare of Torbay Council staff and the staff teams working with young people in Torbay is considered within decision making, planning and communication going forward. I'm going to read the response. The Director of Children's Services, along with the Divisional Directors, continue to work with both Torbay participation leads and the Youth Services to hear the voice of young people. Torbay Council is also part of a global UNICEF-led programme to become a child-friendly community. This programme aims to create cities and communities in the UK where all children, whether they are living in care, using a children's centre or simply visiting their local library, have a meaningful say in and truly benefit from the local decisions, services and spaces that shape their lives. To ensure this programme is embedded in all we do, the Chief Executive is nominated as the Senior Responsible Officer and is supported by colleagues across the Council, members, our partners and children and young people. I think that would be a fantastic accolade for Torbay to become a UNICEF child-friendly place. We are working alongside a number of community groups to better understand and align our work with young people so it has the widest reach and meets needs in our communities. For example, I'm not going to read this out, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 initiatives. 5 initiatives, I think, looking at it very quickly, are within the Foxhole King's Ash area. I think there's a focus of Foxhole King's Ash because from memory at Overview and Scrutiny, I think there's a discussion of a blip that thankfully appears to have passed in terms of youth offending in the TQ3 area, if my memory is correct. So this report, 5 out of the 6 mentions are there in the TQ3 area, absolutely targeted youth work. The sixth point, we continue to deliver youth activity in collaboration with partners to a range of young people at the MySpace Parkfield site. I think people generally don't appreciate how much is going on there. People thinking it's been abandoned. A lot of activity was going on down there during the summer holidays. Engagement, for example, with children who are educated, elected, home educated. And I have to say, on the youth provision, I'm absolutely delighted. Councillor Foster very kindly accompanied me and our former Member of Parliament, Kevin Foster, up to the Acorn Centre at Barton to see what was going on there. Absolutely thrilled to see that that now is coming to fruition, and by sheer chance met a group of people there, one of whom is a youth worker who has been doing good work there at Acorn and doing good work at Pendennis as well. So there's a lot going on. I'm very proud of what is going on. Torbay Council are committed to becoming a relational council. So we had that tremendous relational council conference at the Riviera Centre attended by schools and young people just this last week. I was really very pleased. I could only be there, unfortunately, for the morning, but fantastic to see everyone coming together. Within the children's services, restorative practice and ways of working are embedded in how we work, not only with our families, but with each other. The welfare of our staff is paramount importance as we strive to become an outstanding service. Without them, we would not be able to meet the needs of our children, young people, families and communities. As part of the implementation of Stable Homes Built on Love, that was the previous government's initiative, the acronym, which I don't like, SHABOL, which emphasises early help and support. Consideration is being given as to how we support our staff in having the ability to influence service delivery and how we embed this way of working across all of children's services. So hopefully, colleagues, that is a comprehensive response to the overview and scrutiny recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and I'm happy to second that from the Chair. I've nothing further to add at this stage. So we'll move on to any comments, any questions, any debate from Cordelia. Councillor Law, my apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and the three of us were absolutely delighted to have put in all that effort to help the Acorn programme get over the line, and a great thanks for that to Tracy Kabash from Torbay Communities, because she put in a massive amount of effort to get that in over the line. I actually don't recognise this from the children's overview and scrutiny. I think what we were looking for was something around the continuation of the HAF programme, but this is still great to see, all the work going on. As Councillor By pointed out, it's an awful lot in Paignton, and I think the issues in Torbay, in Torquay and Brixham are also well known, so it'd be really nice to see some of this work coming forward in Torbay, in our community, in Torquay, in the communities that need it, and also in Brixham as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, Councillor By, before I move to the vote?
I don't... In the recommendation, there is no mention of the HAF, which is the holidays and food. So if there's no mention in that to the cabinet, then the cabinet wouldn't be expected to respond to something that wasn't in what came from overview and scrutiny. So I can absolutely go back to our Director of Children's Services, but we did discuss the HAF programme. I've been to so many meetings in the last fortnight, I've absolutely lost track. But we have discussed the HAF programme, and we certainly have HAF activity going on in the Christmas holidays. We're very, very hopeful that it will go on in next summer, but we are still waiting, as always, to get the final detail of finance. But I think the focus on the TQ3 area, the King's Ash and Foxhole, was simply because those are where issues have been sadly in recent time, but maybe it is due to that targeted activity in that particular area of Paignton. We are hopefully seeing a decline in that kind of issues that have resulted in young people being involved in the youth justice service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and I think our response from the Cabinet answers the question that was actually written in advance, and we've provided that written response. So all those in favour of the response that we've just given, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So we have two notices of motion that fall to the Cabinet under items 17. And just for anybody who's watching at home at the moment, the way that notice of motion operate, there is an opportunity for the promoter of the motion to present to the Cabinet. They have 5 minutes. There is an opportunity then for the supporter to present. They also have 5 minutes, and then at which point the Cabinet will provide a response that we'll discuss and take a vote on that. So we will open with 17A, notice of motion, Torbay Airshow Working Party. Councillor Long, you have 5 minutes. The clerk will let you know when we have 30 seconds left. Thank you.
And I don't think I'll be troubling the clerk with needing to worry about 5 minutes for this item. This item on the Torbay Airshow Working Party is very self-explanatory. There has been a Airshow Working Party in existence, but for some reason since May 2023 it hasn't met. But there have been meetings about the Airshow from which opposition councillors for some reason have been excluded, and when the Cabinet brought forward their Cabinet working parties, for some reason there must have been an oversight and there wasn't one brought forward for the Airshow. So this just seeks to finish up that sweeping up and to create this Airshow working party. And of course, as part of being a constructive opposition, we'd like to be involved. So that's what this is all about. You'll notice that my glamorous supporter couldn't be here tonight because she's at a community partnership, but Councillor Cowell has decided to glam up for the evening and do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. So the promoter, thank you. Supporter, Councillor Cowell, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Long, for such glowing praise. Just to support the proposal before the Cabinet tonight, clearly the Airshow is a major event in Torbay, and as it is morphing into a much greater community engaged event as well, it provides an opportunity for people on a cross-party basis to make sure that we're fully up to speed with the proposals, with the budget, with what's being suggested for events and community engagement, and enables people from across the chamber to reach out into their communities and into their networks. So I think it's on political balance. It's the same balance as other working parties, and I think the details before you are self-explanatory. So I'm happy to support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cowell. Councillor Thomas, Mrs. Jay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your proposal. Unfortunately, we are not able to accept and support this. As you will recall, on the 20th of August, the Cabinet approved the formation of a number of working parties. After careful consideration of the Council's priority and resources, the Airshow Working Party was one that was not appointed. We are very mindful that the Council organises a number of events, such as Remembrance Sunday and Bay of Lights. You know, we just couldn't have a working party for them all. These are carried out without the need for a working party. The English Riviera Airshow has taken place now for a number of years, with lessons learnt along the way. This is a major event for the team, and a member working party is a diversion of officer resources. In the latter years, it is hard to identify where the former Airshow committee provided added value to warrant continuing with it. Our small team already spends time meeting with key partners such as the ER bid to discuss marketing to ensure we have a robust plan in place, and that's not to mention other key partners and groups within our community. Also, meetings with PSAG and the flying organisations in order to deliver a successful airshow has to take place. This year is the first year that we have delivered it under budget, of which we are very proud. The formula is working well. However, we will be arranging update meetings where members will be encouraged to put any ideas they have forward. And of course, we are always lacking in volunteers, so we encourage you to come along over that weekend and give your time as other members did last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bye. I understand that you're going to second this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I absolutely support 100% my colleague, Councillor Jackie Thomas. And I want to say well done to her and colleagues for all you've done to deliver a very successful air show in 2024. And I very much hope the same again in 2025. I mean, it's all been going very well tonight, and we're all hopefully all getting on jolly well, and that will build as we get to the full council meeting next week. So I don't want to say the wrong thing and cause upset, but if we've actually had a very successful air show that has been enjoyed by tens of thousands of people, an enormous benefit to our tourism and leisure sector this year, without a meeting of a working party, and delivered it at a fraction of the cost, an absolute fraction of the cost. I think we were going to try and make an awful lot of it coming in under budget, but because it was the general election time, the council couldn't be seen to sort of put out communications of that nature at that time. But you know, in the past we have talked about hundreds of thousands of pounds to the cost for the air show. This year it's come in under budget. My understanding is in the region of, or possibly slightly below, 100,000. So that's a huge, huge achievement without a meeting of a working party. That, to me, in my sensible, logical business mind, thinks what value would a working party add? I remember there was a discussion in previous times about how we might do more for our cared for children, not phrased here looked after children. We tend now to say cared for children and foster carers and so on. I think that I am right that this year was the first time that our fostering team actually took up a stall at the air show, and I was very pleased to go and visit them down there on the Sunday morning, I think, when I went down there. So people can make suggestions. You don't need to have a working party. If this council has one fault, I would say we have too many meetings, and some of them don't add value.
Thank you very much indeed. So we'll open up for any comments, any debates, anybody from anybody else. In which case, we'll sum up Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Just to carry on a little bit about our cared for children and our foster children, I believe this year we did offer so many to have their picture taken with the Spitfire, you know, and that was a good memento that they could take away from the show. We're working on further things for this year, and we need to bear in mind that it is a free air show, so it is open to all, and especially our foster caring teams. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So just need to move to the vote to finish this item. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Final item, item 17B, winter fuel payments. It is a further notice of motion, and the promoter is Councillor Long. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And many people in this chamber, I'm sure, and across the country would have been surprised that one of the first acts of the new government was to axe the universal benefit, the winter fuel payment to pensioners and to restrict it to those on pension credit. And the number of residents in Torbay who, at the right time of putting this motion together, who are going to be affected is over 20,000. And of course, the take-up of pension credit amongst those who are eligible is only about 63%, so which is very worrying. And I know that there are lots of pensioners who this move has caused a lot of worry to. And it's interesting, I was at the energy saving fair at Paignton Library this morning, and I noticed Councillor Foster there as well, that I was speaking to Citizens Advice and to Age UK Torbay, who have both been perhaps overwhelmed by people getting in touch with them to get help. So all those agencies up and down the country are being, overwhelmed. It's not as if they weren't busy before, but they've been overwhelmed by people needing to get help to see if they might be eligible, or worrying about money as a result of the move by the government. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cabinet is supportive of the recommendations in the motion today, although I do have one concern, which is that this motion arrives at Cabinet pre-amended, because of course all references to lobbying the government have been removed because of constitutional changes made by this administration, which means that Torbay Council did not join many other councils in lobbying the government over trying to persuade them over the wrongness of this move, which I feel is a retrograde step and has meant that Torbay's pensioners have been not represented in that national lobbying. I so move. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Law to support this.
Yes, thank you. And I really hope everybody can support this. As Councillor Long has said, it's a very whittled down motion, which has had to take out, because of the changes made to the Constitution last year, we've had to take out the changes, the references to us lobbying government. But I don't think that will prevent colleagues here from supporting it. I've had several elderly people get in touch with me. And the thing is with a lot of elderly people is that they don't like to claim extra benefits. They feel it's not right, or that they shouldn't, and often they absolutely don't know how to, and they struggle with the digital nature of a lot of these things. So I really hope that we as a council, that you can all support this, and that we as a council can do our utmost to make sure that at least the elderly people in our community know how to get support, to make sure that they're getting what they're entitled to, particularly so they can get the winter fuel payments. I do know that this year you're putting some of the hardship fund into helping some of those pensioners who will no longer qualify that, but I think that comes at the expense of warm spaces, providing more warm spaces for the community, which is a real concern for some of our elderly people. If they don't have the warm spaces to go to, they're uncomfortable claiming what they see as a benefit. I think we've got a big promotion thing to be doing here. So anything you can do, and anything you'd like us as councillors to do to support that promotion, please let us all know, because I think this is a really, really important thing. I think it's just awful. Breaks my heart for some of these elderly people who are really, really worried at the moment, at least people I've spoken to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tyman will respond.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for bringing this forward. And there is an awful lot of in here that I give absolute support to. The first statement, Councillor Long said that he was surprised that Labour government brought this forward. I would actually say that I was shocked that they brought it forward. I think it was an appalling thing to do, or at least to have set the criteria where they set the criteria. The fact they were only willing to help the 1.5 million of the pensioners who were receiving it, the people who were perhaps most in need, and not the next few million who were also in need, I think was wrong, and I think it's been condemned by many Conservative MPs, many Lib Dem MPs, and MPs from the smaller parties as well. Indeed, it's interesting, it seems to have been condemned by even some Labour MPs. It is shocking, I think, that that number of pensioners have lost that support at a time when bills are going up. And as Councillor Law has pointed out, we have already, as a council, taken a significant step to plug the gap by making sure that those payments will go to all the pensioners in Torbay who get council tax support. We're also doing that on a basis where we're not asking any of those to claim it. They will receive it automatically. And I think that's what we can do to help avoid the situation where people might be hesitant or not learn about it or whatever. I think that's the right way to go, and we are doing that. That means that those who get council tax support but at the moment don't get pension credit, those pensioners who get council tax support but don't get pension credit will receive the £200, or if they're over 80, the £300. We realise that we might, in doing that, not be reaching all of the people who could be entitled to it. Indeed, we would not have a way of finding those people very easily if they are not themselves claiming council tax support. And I think there's a duty upon us here as a council to actually look to see that all residents, whether they be pensioners or not, where we can possibly reach people to tell them what they're entitled to. Pension credit, yeah, as put forward in this motion, but also council tax support, also any other benefits, that people get what they're entitled to help them. That's something that not only do I think we should do, but I would actually say that to most extent we are doing. We're doing it in communications that go out already, in social media. We're doing it in a lot of ways in our work through the voluntary sector, and in support through Paignton Hub and other places. And I think it's important that we not only tell people of their entitlement, but that we also do what we can to make sure people are given the assistance to make those claims where we can. They are well publicised on our website. I have asked that we look to see whether what's on there is adequate, whether that can be strengthened in any way, but I recognise that even there, only a very small proportion of the people that might be entitled to pension credit or any of the other benefits they're not claiming would see the website, look for it there and find it there. So I do recognise that that isn't going to reach many additional people. We have planned, and we are writing out to people that are on, who receive, to pensioners, I'll be careful again, to pensioners who receive council tax support, to ask them whether they wish to claim and to point out that they might be entitled to pension credit. That is taking place over the next few weeks. So in a sense, that's meeting one of the criteria, one of the things requested. It might sound, from what I've said, as if I'm supporting this motion. I have one problem with this motion, or with motions of this sort. I actually think that it's not the way to go, to be putting forward motions to ask officers to do what I consider to be their day job, and to put forward motions to actually get officers to do things that I, certainly as a cabinet member, and I believe most of my cabinet colleagues would be talking about on a regular basis to their respective officers, directors, across all aspects of the council. I certainly don't expect my finance officer, sitting on my right here, to not do things that are part of his day job because I haven't put a motion through council asking him to do so. That would be ridiculous. And also, I sit down on a weekly basis with Malcolm on a one-to-one basis, talk about lots of things. I come up with ideas, I make lots of suggestions, I make lots of requests, we discuss them, and where Malcolm feels that that's the right thing to do, he gets on and does them. He's not waiting for me to put a motion through Cabinet. So I think I want to say thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you for the suggestions. I would certainly welcome that those sorts of suggestions about how we can do things in a better way or a broader way would continue. But please bring them to me or to appropriate Cabinet members on whatever the topic is, and bring them to officers' attention, and we will get there. It is not our job as Cabinet members, in my opinion, to micromanage our officers and the way in which they do their job from day to day. It's our job to set strategy, make important decisions, set the direction of travel, and change the direction of travel. I believe that all the things in here are things that officers will do, are doing, have done. They don't wish to need to have us to instruct them to do so. So I'm not going to accept the motion, but I will ask that Cabinet will continue, or will state that Cabinet will continue to work with the Director of Adult and Community Services and other officers, and with the voluntary sector, or with voluntary sector partners, to encourage and assist residents to claim all the benefits they're entitled to, both at the moment and an ongoing basis. That's my proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Tyman. And, more than happy to second that. You say you were shocked. Councillor Long was surprised. You said you were shocked. I was shocked. I was absolutely disgusted that the action was taken to remove the winter fuel payment. Councillor Long and Councillor Law wanted change. They wanted change of the government. They got change of the government, and look what we see in a very short time. I would say, be careful what you wish for. Also happy to support the motion. We don't need a motion to be able to do the day job. This is our day job. This is what we're doing day in, day out. I think some of the things that you have spoke about this evening represents the actions that we have taken within this council to try to help some of those residents who have been penalised through this action from the Labour government. It's really interesting. As I sit here this evening, we're not alone. There's almost 2.7 million people who are asking for there to be another general election. I believe that the current Labour government have gone back on the promises they laid out in the lead up to the last election. 2.699 million people, which is huge. Absolutely. So we're not alone in our thinking. We are supported by another. Oh, my apologies. It's going up all the time. But more than happy to support the proposal that you have on the table. Thank you, Councillor Tyman. So I will move to any debate at this point. Councillor Long.
It's just to go a bit further into something that Councillor Law mentioned, which was about warm spaces, which I understand that the council is not supporting this year, because that would have been an opportunity for people to be reached about the information about benefits they might have been entitled to, and that would have been people of all ages, not just pensionable ages, and it might have been a forum to reach people who might not have been digitally enabled. So that's a real shame that support won't be there for people this year. In terms of the petition that Councillor Thomas D mentioned, I was half expecting him to also mention the petition about reversing Brexit, which reached 6 million, and I presume he's supporting that call for a referendum to be held again on that criteria. And I have to say I'm slightly surprised about the approach to motions that's being taken. The motions are a way of councillors raising issues that happen on councils up and down the country, and are a sort of form of democracy, and it's a way that residents can see that their councillors are raising issues and raising issues to the leadership of the council, and I'm just surprised that such an anti-democratic view is being taken of such a mechanism, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a constitutional change brought forward to ban them completely, because that wouldn't surprise me from this administration at all. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll try and pick up on some of the points that you've raised. So it would seem eminently sensible that the decision-making part of the council received the motion. So if it is a cabinet decision, the motion is referred to the cabinet, and the cabinet meeting is recorded and available on YouTube. And I don't see how it's, hidden away, very, very transparent, and you're speaking directly to the decision makers who would be able to action or not action that particular motion. Motions that are decisions of council would absolutely not come to the cabinet, because it would not be a cabinet decision. They would go to full council. So that is the reason why there is a difference into where motions go, whether the decision maker is cabinet or whether the decision maker is council. I will go back to Councillor Tyerman, who wants to pick up on the first point you raised.
Thank you. I'll pick up on one or 2 points. As we've talked about government petitions, interestingly, there is one petition on there about restoring the winter fuel payments. Funnily enough, that one doesn't seem to have caught on wonderfully. I think it's only got about 30,000 followers at the moment. I trust that if everybody who thinks that actually it was the wrong thing to do actually might think about whether they support that one as well, because it would be quite interesting to give a message that they want a debate about that in Parliament through the public asking for it, as well as, I know, the request from opposition MPs already to ask for it. So let's get that one up to 100,000 and force a debate in Parliament as well. I think that would be worth promoting. But can I just pick up on what Councillor Long said about motions? And yeah, I haven't. We're not dismissing it and put forward no motion. I have put forward a motion. It actually says we will continue to work with, which is much way I would prefer to express it than rather than give an instruction to a director to do something. I believe that's what we as members should be doing, is working with our officers. And what's more, I've broadened it to encourage it to be with, to encourage and assist all residents to claim benefits to which they're entitled. Therefore, a broader remit than the one that was put forward in the motion to us. So it is still a motion, but it's actually a motion that I've changed it. So it's a commitment and from Cabinet to do something, to work with officers, rather than just an instruction to do it. And I think that is the way I would much prefer to work with officers in this council to achieve the objectives we all have to make things better for our residents.
Thank you indeed, Councillor. And with the proposal on the table, we'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. And it's exactly 19:45. This meeting closes. Thank you very much indeed. Have a pleasant evening.